Look both ways when you cross that street. Dot your I's and cross your T's. Measure twice, but cut once. Love life, live it up, bruh. Dream is good, do the work too. There ain't nothing you can't work through, and there ain't nothing I can't handle. There ain't nothing I can't handle. I look to the sky, and I thank God that I'm alive. I look to my wife, and I thank God she by my side. I've been through a lot, but I survived. It weighs on my heart from time to time, but there ain't nothing I can't handle.
Peace, big love, big blessings, even bigger living, everything that come with it and everything in between. You are tuned into Thinking Out Loud with Samuel David. It's just a conversation. And I'm your host, of course, Samuel David. Thinking Out Loud is a place of conversation, transparency, candidness, empathy, accountability, reflection, leveling up where we are as we look forward to where we headed. But enough of all that. Today I got a special guest. All guests are special, of course.
Yes.
But today I have a special guest. She is an actress. She is a advocate and community organizer for reproductive rights for women. She is a podcast host and former radio host, and just an overall dope individual. Today I have Miss Alex Neloms.
I appreciate that.
Welcome to the party.
Hey, listen, I've been trying to get a ticket to this one for a minute.
Oh, stop it. Well, welcome.
Thanks.
I'm glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. I start every conversation the same way. All right, because it really tells me where we're going.
Okay.
And it's almost feeling scripted at this point. Because I start the conversation every single way because I don't write a lot of questions down. I do my research, of course.
Okay.
But I like to just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And the question I start every conversation with is, how is your spirit?
That's a great question. That's question number one?
That's question number. That's how we gonna know where
Wow. Okay. Quick check-in. I'm doing great. My spirit is doing great. I feel a lot of joy.
Word.
Yeah, and I'm happy, but I try to use the word. I'm using the word joy more often now because joy is stickier, and I feel like joy is intentional. So I've been having consistent joy.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's fire, and I love the intentionality behind like affirming that.
Yes.
Right, because it's important. Like, I'm happy, but I'm excited is happy.
Right.
Passionate is happy, but like
and
your
it's
joy.
So fleeting too. Ooh. Happiness is fleeting.
It's fleeting, like a mother. Yeah. Unless you choose it, unless you go like create it yourself.
Exactly.
But I gotta ask, what's giving you joy in this moment of your life?
Choosing peace, choosing me. Really been okay. So I turned 30 this year.
Congratulations! Welcome
you.
to the party.
Oh,
we're gonna have a lot of conversation here.
Nobody told me what happens at 30.
Okay.
I mean, like just the hard shift of being a different person. Almost the energetic shift that you feel is almost immediate.
Yeah.
It was like in that 2-week frame when I turned 30. I was like, and don't get me wrong, it kicked up about 28 years old. That's when stuff started to kind of get rocky.
Yeah.
I said, something is things is breaking down so we can build back up.
100%.
Oh man.
What I love about 30s, right, is, the young folks, they be like, oh, you old, you in your 30s. Like, no, 30 is mad young.
Right.
Because you're now at a spot where your adult time is equal to your time as a child.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now I'm in a space where I'm reaffirming what I've learned, how I was raised, or I'm breaking some of the cycles that were started within my family, things like that. And so it's really dope. You get to look at yourself in the face and really know yourself.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Friendships is different.
Yep.
Work passion is different. Like, what's been the biggest shift you felt in your coming into 30? I can't say your 30s because you're right at the cusp.
Right.
30s, right.
But I'll say, since I hit my 30s, that's what I will say. But the biggest shift has probably been a little bit of what you mentioned, having reconnected back to my authentic self, back to that middle school self that I pushed down.
Okay.
And she has come back up. And so I've had a chance to honor her and do the things that she's always wanted to do. And it's wild getting back in touch with her and then being in this body, this person. And I'm like, okay, sis. Like, so it's super affirming. And I'm just like, okay, sis, okay. All right. So this is where we've been for the last 15 years. That's all right. I like it. And just part of getting into theater was honoring her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah, I was, and I cried after the opening night.
Really?
Because that was a theater kid in
this
me.
most recent play, Keep Me Honest, Alibi.
Yes.
Fire.
Yes.
Fire.
I mean, I was in tears because I just felt so like my heart chakra was open. I was connected.
That's
It was
major.
wild.
So I gotta ask though, because again, it's thinking out loud. So we're gonna go all over everywhere.
For sure.
What pushed her down for so long? Because
Mm.
15 years is a long time to be out of touch with that inner child. And often they say you are at most peace, you are at most joy in life when you are indeed in touch with that inner child, like and your passions and your purpose.
Yes.
So what pushed her down for so long?
Short answer is masking. I was masking her. And I think I adopted a fundamental belief around that time that who I was as I am was not enough or worthy.
Oh, you was lying to yourself.
Man, tell me about it, and believed it. Believed those lies that my brain was telling me, and then created an identity out of those lies.
Okay.
For the next 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, we gonna swim. Just so you know, we swim on Thinking Out Loud.
Okay, I like it like
we go
that.
into the deep end. So
Good.
that masking, and I've said it on quite a few episodes, right? Like Black women, women of color, Black women. Let me not say women of color. Black women.
Yeah.
Mask, cover, and hide themselves more than any other demographic.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, or why do you feel like you had to mask who you were?
I think growing up, there was not a lot of validation to be what I can only speak from my own experience, right?
Okay.
I would say that there was not a lot of validation or representation that who I was okay. And a part of that was it was because, I mean, growing up biracial was interesting. I had my mom is white, my dad is Black. I had to find my identity in between, literally, because I'm a mix of them both. But as much as there are biracial kids now, you didn't see them a whole lot back then. So it was a unique experience to where I was trying to find my identity in my mom and my dad separately. But then it wasn't until I came into my own identity and being like, I don't, even though I can't see myself in either one of you fully, I'm your creation, and that's enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's powerful.
Wow. It took a minute.
Wow. So, biracial. I don't know if this experience you've had. I'm just going off what I've heard a lot, right? It's like, no matter what you mix with, if you Black, you Black.
Right.
So growing up, what was that like as a biracial young lady? You grew up in Kansas, Wichita.
Yeah.
What was that like in this Midwest city?
Always too Black for the white kids, always too white for the Black kids. That's how it is. So then that only reaffirmed me not feeling like I was good enough as I was.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see myself anywhere.
Word.
Well, I wouldn't say anywhere, but not a lot, not in a way that I could look up to. And like, I wish I would have known about Tracy Ellis Ross back then. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, where I'm
For
just
sure.
like, oh man, like, this is, I call her my mama now. She my godmama.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. When did you first see yourself? Did it take to 30, or was it before then that you actually was able to see yourself?
I would see her come up. She would peek her head up throughout my 20s a bit, but it was just the same type of thing where I would push her down. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to hear from her. And it was easier to become distracted with, you know, social activities or relationships. That was my addiction. It was serial monogamy. Like, it was just, I could focus on that, right? Like, I felt like I could undo some things or control this, which was untrue, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh, this is where I feel in control and where I can, and I love work because work has doing what you love. You put in action and some magical thing happens where you begin to see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
Relationships don't really work like that. They're a lot more nuanced.
100%.
So I thought I could do that. I thought I could implement that formula into relationships.
Now, while relationships are work, they're not an occupation.
Right.
That you like, yeah.
And I had that. I didn't understand that for a minute.
Ooh. So, you know, I said I do my research. So, and like, we're going to continue to bounce.
For sure.
So I do my research, and I've seen a lot of your personal diary, right? Your TikTok,
yeah.
right? And you talk a lot about relationship or like man-women relationship and like that dynamic and the nuances of that, right? Is some of that rooted in your history as well as coming into your 30s and like,
Oh yeah,
I see myself even more.
for sure, for sure. I'm learning a whole lot in therapy, and my cup feels, for the first time in a long time, it feels like it's overflowing, so that now I'm able to share in the way that I want to.
I love that.
Yeah.
Who's keeping that cup full?
Mm.
Like it.
God, me,
Word.
the source.
Word.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So I didn't mean like God, me, but I meant like God, me, and the source. Like the source pours in from up here and then comes out. I sound crazy, but
Come
you
on,
know
go.
what I
Hey,
mean,
listen,
though.
I'm with you.
You know, and so if I'm not connected to source, that's when I feel the most drained. And I literally will tell anybody, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
I would, what? It's too complicated. It's too hard. Life's too hard. I need him.
Ooh, that's a
Yeah.
bar. That's a bar. Okay, so going back a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're in your 30s, you at the cusp of 30. Because it only gets deeper.
You're right.
Like it only gets more real, like
It
more
gets-
fun,
Okay.
right? Like it really gets fun. I like to say like at 33 is when it's really like a different level. And the analogy I use is like Jesus died at 33 and came back to life at 33.
That's right.
So that's like a bar in there. It's like a word if you choose to really peep that one.
Yeah.
Right. And so as you're in your 30 and you look at getting into acting, you're a thespian, right? To the max, right?
Right.
What inspired you to want to be an actress?
Honestly, when I first started, it was just a hobby.
Okay.
I gotta keep it real. I was just like, yeah, like, you know, like I'll try it, I'll see what I can do. And was invited to film The Seeds.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I'll see, I'll try and I've always been curious about it. But in this moment, I went ahead and we did what is it called? A read or something like that. And so, yeah, I ended up doing it, and it was like really successful. I loved who I got to tap into while filming The Seeds. I was like, okay, I like this. This is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I do a little bit of acting, and I've been judged by my acting. Like, it's weird. People be like, "You so dope." I'm like, cool, but I be, it's the Virgo with me. Like, I'm still overthinking and like critical of myself.
Course.
But somebody told me like, "You are too cool. Like everything you do, you like super cool." And I'm like, I wasn't trying to be cool,
right?
Like, I'm trying to bring something else, but I haven't tapped into that fully, right? Do you feel like you are at that space where you're able to really channel different energy in somebody completely different than who you are, or do you take on roles that are just an extension of who you are?
Oh, that's a really good question. It wasn't until I felt challenged portraying Marley in The Seeds.
Okay.
But funny story, in Alibi, the most recent play, her character was very similar to Marley.
Okay.
Except for in theater, nobody else cut. So you're in character. I mean, we rehearsed 5 days a week, and we were in character all those times. I mean, to the point where me and my castmates were calling each other by our actors' names.
Word.
Once we did, like, I remember it was like, we're 4 weeks into rehearsal, 3 weeks in, and I'm like, this is messing with my mental health. Having to get into her mind, her name was Candace, having to get into her mind. She's a narcissist and sociopath. And I was struggling there for a second. And I had to remember, okay, Alex, you're not this person. We just need to, how would you as Alex, taken to its furthest conclusion, act in this situation? And I think that takes the acting away from it. It's you as Sam. How, if I have a scene to deliver, who would I be in this scene? How would I respond? And then putting some sauce on it.
Okay.
And then so that's when the fun begins. After the lines are learned, it's like, okay. So once I got past that hump, after portraying her and understanding her, I was so happy to get back to myself.
That's real.
It was affirming. I was like, I can lean into these qualities that I feel like I just can lean into me, and it was dope. Yeah.
Yeah, because you definitely don't give me like narcissist,
No,
right?
I
You
try
like
not to.
pretty chill,
Yeah.
pretty relaxed. Looking back at the seeds, and I don't know how much you care to share on camera. That's the question I always tee up just in case,
For sure.
right? Your love interest, your real life love interest.
Yes.
What is that like on camera? Especially as you both are playing completely different characters.
Yeah. The chemistry was super easy
Okay.
because of that reason. I almost feel like we cheated a little bit because it's like we didn't really have no work right now because I already like you. So
Yeah.
But when we first started filming, we were pretty new in the relationship.
See, when you said cheated, you talking about cheated the process. I thought you were
Yes.
talking like cheating on each other with the character. Okay.
Oh, that's a hot take. No.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just, the chemistry was easy to do, but it was hard because I would giggle all the time. I'd be like, stop looking at me. It's like, he's like I'm supposed to. Like, but it wasn't always easy. I mean, just to be transparent, there were times that we went on set just from having an argument. And I'm like, we still got to work together and create together. And you get on my nerves. I don't like you right now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, well, you're not you right now. You this person. So we're going to get this work done.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I often hear how acting, like you mentioned, there's no cut in theater.
Yeah.
But like theater acting and movie acting are like different vibrations.
For sure.
Which one do you enjoy the most?
Theater.
Theater.
Yeah.
What about theater do you enjoy more than?
Having a live audience. And it's almost like instant gratification. You get to hear the responses, the crowd reaction. And it's a charge. It's a charge up. Like you really feel it's dope. Like you're hearing people laugh at your lines and be like, like what's going on here? It's like, okay. Whereas film, you film it, but you don't get the gratification of seeing the project for a while longer.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's real. That's real. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
How do you, theater blows my mind.
Man,
so
you should try it.
I might give it a shot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I enjoy acting. I enjoy when I act that I don't have like a crazy amount of lines. Because I struggle with keeping the lines, right? Like is there a special technique to remembering all your lines so you don't fumble nothing?
Oh yeah.
Especially in theater.
Yeah, I would say lines main and repetitiveness.
Okay.
I mean, I was on a treadmill with my script.
Word.
Because the pattern of the walking or the running helps your brain to focus on what you're reading or what you're studying a little bit better, and it helps it sink in. I recorded voice memos of me saying the script and would listen to it. That makes sense. Yeah.
I say that out loud and I think about rapping actually, and like the cadences help me remember the lines. So that makes sense. I totally get it. Yeah, I'm tripping.
For sure. Yeah.
That's real. That's real.
But if you ever want to get into theater, I think it would help stretch you in the way that you are looking to like grow in that field.
Ooh, I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna tap in. I'm gonna tap in. Okay, so your different gifts. Right. And so I know like you and Carla had your podcast y'all was rocking.
Yeah.
Right. Being on stage, right, being in movies. The and I'm gonna lose the name of it. And I just had it because I took my notes. But as an organizer for Women's Reproductive Rights. Community organizer, right. Like what about those different things, which are different pockets essentially?
For sure.
Right. What affirms that you're on the right track as you engage in those different pieces of you?
I think a little bit of something different from each thing affirms it. The nonprofit work, the reason why I moved from radio is because I was looking for something more meaningful. So that itches that scratch for me. And I truly love it. And I'm very passionate about it. And as far as the acting, the creative part of it, the acting and the theater and the podcasting, that's a love as well.
Yeah.
And I'm delusional enough to think that I could have everything.
Why can't you?
Why can't you?
Why can't you? Listen, a thing I love to say, and it sounds, depending on who's listening and who hears it, it sounds arrogant, but it's such a real thing, right? Like, I am dope at everything I do. And if I can't be dope at it, I need to find somebody else that can be dope at it. Because that's clearly not for me.
Exactly.
But if I'm doing that shit, like, I'm on.
I think that's the difference between that being a pride thing or an ego thing into just confidence.
Yeah.
You confidently know what you can and cannot do, but you also know your limitations.
100%.
And I think that's what keeps it from ego. Ego is like, oh, I could do whatever. Like, let me try it. And if you can't do it right, don't do it.
Don't do it. Right? You asked me to go change the engine out of the car. I'm like, yo, no.
Look.
Call Smooth. Like,
Not gonna hold you. I don't know how to do
top.
that.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Right. So no, that's real. That's real. Okay. So as I was jumping into your personal diary, and I'm like, yo, is she coming for the brothers? Is this conversation like where are we going with it? Right. And I was like, we're definitely gonna have to dive into this
For
part.
sure.
So you had one video on your TikTok where you mentioned decentering men. I don't want to butcher it. Am I saying it right? Break it down for me.
Decentering men.
So what's that mean?
So it's a very feminist term.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as a feminist?
Oh no.
No?
I
Okay.
mean, I don't know. I'm still in an identity shift with that. Being in the work with reproductive justice, it really, I'm like, look, I might be.
Okay.
Because the more I learn,
Yeah.
but really it's on the side of just really helping women to center themselves. And I think it's like saying decentering men is like, you know, how people got their feathers ruffled when it came to defunding the police. It's like,
Okay.
all right, now we ain't saying get rid of them. We just saying that maybe your attention is better spent more so on what you want and what you desire before you try to make yourself a wife or husband. I mean, or girlfriend.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. That's real. And even hearing that, especially working with women with reproductive rights, I can imagine the type of stories, the type of people that you may run into and the type of situations they've been in.
Yeah.
And something I reckon, like when I think out loud, a lot of it is I scroll and I'm like, these are just tripping. And it inspires some of my thoughts. So I can imagine that can help with some of those, that inspiration of thought, that train of thought. You mentioned something else though that I loved and I was like, I can't wait to talk. Right. And now it's losing me.
I think I remember what you're talking about. I think you commented on it.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was, damn, keep me honest.
It was a honest question. Are there men who actually care about women's ambitions, goals, and who she desires to be?
Yes.
Or does your mind go straight to what value she can bring to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
What sparked a question like that? We're just thinking out loud.
I think a lot of I had been talking to a lot of men just about, or just even being on TikTok or just seeing certain things on social media. A lot of men just like, well, what do you bring to the table? Or like, what value do you bring? And are we caring about the person?
Yeah.
Who she desires to be is what I mean by that. And I think a lot of men took it on TikTok as like, well, yeah, I care about her ambitions and like her career. I put my, I put my wife through school and then she left me. And it's like, all right.
Folks are speaking that hurt.
Exactly.
Real life.
So I'm like, okay, well, so yeah, just like desiring to help her, like you and your wife. I see you by her side when it 100%. Comes to that 2 Beats Boutique.
Yes.
When it comes to anything that she wants to do. I mean, I see you guys are married, have been for a long time.
Yes.
And I see you commenting on posts, keeping the same energy, posting about her. And no, we're not looking for anybody else's validation.
At all.
But it's the action of doing that. It's you're going to, 2 Beats and you're checking on her. You making sure you get it on the film. The support is genuine.
Yeah.
So like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, man, I talk to brothers often and I'm like, I could not imagine, and I wouldn't want to imagine, but I've been married like 14 years next year.
Yep.
Yeah. But I couldn't imagine like pursuing relationship these days.
Yeah.
Right? Because something that I recognize, and even when I hear folks talking, is like there's this idea or this thought that everybody has to have it together before you come together. And the idea is what I believe, where I see success in relationship is the ability to grow together.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, I get super spiritual and deep, but it's like nobody goes to build a relationship with God once they have it all together.
Right.
No, it's like, it's a growth partnership.
Yeah.
It's a growth relationship.
Yeah.
What do you think has like, and you're younger than me, right? I'm 37, so it's like, and once you get in your I'm 37, so it's a gap, right?
Yeah,
a generational gap almost, right?
For sure.
What is it with this generation in relationship? Where did the mark begin to get missed?
Mm. I think it was when self-help culture came into play, and our
Mm,
over access to other options.
that's real.
At your age and those around you that are your age, you guys kind of you got a good amount of time in to
Hmm.
really during your adolescence, teenagers, really to lock in like this isn't what we don't there's they don't work like this, right?
Hmm.
Until it did, and then what I think you guys were like maybe 18 when things really started to kick up with the social media and
Yeah,
things.
like early 20s,
Yeah,
like is when, I think it was, I remember Black Planet back when I was a
everybody
kid
remember
going
that.
going to the WSU to get on the computer, but like
Yeah.
MySpace probably cracked off after I was out of high school.
See, and that was when, I mean, your brain's not fully developed, but you're out of adolescence.
Hmm.
And so it's like, I think that that plays a huge role is that while we were developing,
Yeah,
and so now it's like, well, hold on now, because I don't need to do this. There's so many other options. And I think too many options could be a bad thing
100%,
because
100%.
then you get confused about what you want.
There's an illusion in that.
Yes.
There's an
Okay.
illusion in options,
Yeah.
right? Because if the grass is always greener wherever you water it,
Mm,
right? But if I have
yes.
multiple options, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make every scenario make sense in some way, shape, or form.
But then you look up and then you just have fragments of yourself laying around.
You feel me?
Man.
Ooh, ooh, I told you we swimming.
Yeah.
Let me ask this: do you
Mm,
subscribe? And I've been waiting to have somebody on the show to have these conversations for sure,
man.
right? Do you subscribe to like the traditional gender roles, or do you feel like, yeah, do you subscribe to the traditional gender roles, and do you believe or feel that traditional gender roles help relationship in a more positive way?
Mm, that's a loaded question.
Loaded question.
Woo! I think I do believe, let me start with that. I do believe that some tradition in your roles as you
Okay.
exist together do help the balance
Mhm.
for sure. There are some things that men are just wired better for,
Mhm.
and some things that women are. And I think that as you get to know your partner, those nuances will vary, right? She
Mhm.
may be better at shooting at going taking a car to get an oil change.
Word.
Just because it's an oil change doesn't all of a sudden make it a man's job, right?
Mhm.
So honoring that in each other,
Mm.
putting the ego aside and being like, well, I'm not good at that. That's for you to handle. And I would say that I feel very alpha submissive, right? So
Okay, break that down for me. You give me some new terms today. Decenter, alpha submissive. What's that?
listen, like I would say that like I'm alpha, meaning I love to get things done. I love to work. I love to chase a I wouldn't say chase. I would say that I like to practice the art of attracting success to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just enjoy it. And so that would be seen as alpha to
Mhm.
some people. And I am direct and I speak my mind.
What's your sign?
Leo.
Ha!
So it makes
Duh.
sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Okay, I'm tracking completely. I'm tracking all the way.
Okay.
I'm totally
Yeah.
tracking.
But
Okay.
when it comes to like when it comes to my relationships, I need like them to be able to like you gotta be able to like talk to me nice, but
Hmm.
also give me a reason to be submissive to you.
Can you tame a lion?
Mm. Yes.
Okay.
Be nice to me. Be sweet to me. Just because I'm coming off this way or you see me
Hmm.
outside like this, don't mean I'm like that for
Okay.
real.
Okay.
I mean, I am, but not for you. I love you.
Word.
You know
No,
what I
and
mean?
and that's real. That's like I tell my wife, like, yo, you can be the boss. And I said on another podcast recently, like, yo, you can be the boss in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but when you at home, chill,
Right.
like,
And
relax.
it takes, you got to learn how to, women have to practice turning that off, switching it.
Hmm.
But so do men,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a weird balance, right? Because it's like, on one side, it's like, yo, make me.
Mm,
And on the other side, it's like, you got to give me space to be
grow.
able to make you.
Right.
Right? Like, if
Oh,
I
I
want you,
see.
like, I love the conversation of being submissive and all of that because it's perceived negatively.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, just, I view submissive as trust
Mm-hmm.
my leadership.
Yes.
All right. Not bow down because I said so.
Right.
It's like, no, trust, like, yo, your man got you.
Yeah.
But then I know on the women's side of things, sometimes, especially in today's, what do you call it, independent women,
Ugh,
right?
yeah.
And that's out of necessity.
Yeah,
I'd be remiss to not acknowledge that,
for sure.
right? Like there's been a genuine breakdown of like familiar structure and all of that.
For sure.
But the whole sheboink is like, yo, give me room to lead.
Right. I think that's why I wouldn't fully call myself a feminist, because I think a
Okay.
lot of those views lean toward the non-traditional type of, and I do hold a lot of traditions. But yeah, the word submissive, I used to think differently about too.
Okay.
And I think a lot of women are letting social media and their homegirls tell them what's real and what's not.
Listen.
And that's not okay. I really want to inspire women to be able to go to source, really use discernment and listen to their heart, because our heart is our most prized possession. And without the right knowledge, you're giving it away and you're wondering what's wrong, or if something's wrong with you, but you have not gotten to know your heart well enough to give it to the right person.
Facts.
You know, so yeah.
Ooh. Thanksgiving was fun, right? So my daughter is I love it because she's on set, right? For those that don't know, she's on set.
Yeah.
Right. But she's like, she is probably a feminist.
Okay.
To the max. I don't know if I'd call it that yet. But she's like, she is at the age in where she's able to recognize like the power that she has as a human.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's an interesting dynamic in that as a teenager, because there's no relationship to have to balance that power. Right. So as she walks in her power as a young lady, she's not worrying about the masculine or feminine energy balance. Right. So Thanksgiving, interesting because of course traditionally, right, the mothers, the aunties do the cooking, things like that. She's like, no, I'm not gonna be in nobody's kitchen, which I get.
Yeah.
Right. But then also like kind of helping her recognize like, yo, the tradition piece.
Yeah.
But it was funny because this was the first Thanksgiving that normally everybody's like the aunties and the mothers serve.
Okay.
And this year I was like, no, nobody's serving because my daughter said she ain't on that. So I just had to share that story because I thought it was pretty fun.
That's
right? And it was interesting.
That is. We
Sidebar.
have to have some conversations.
Yes,
with your daughter.
she's dope. She's like, she is the most amazing young lady in the world.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, and I don't just say that because she's mine, like this because I know her.
No, it's the difference between loving your kids and liking them.
Yeah, that's
you
one of
gotta
my
like
friends.
them. You gotta raise the kid you're gonna like.
100%.
You know?
100%.
Yeah.
I remember, and I love how we jump all over the place on thinking out loud. But back to Thanksgiving real quick.
Yeah.
The funny part that I was getting to is that this was the first year I did not have leftovers because nobody was serving. Everybody was serving themselves. There's a word in there somewhere. I don't know where, but
interesting.
Right. But it's a bar.
I want to peel that back so bad because that was so good.
Yeah.
Because I think that in relationship, that's why we take turns being, because when you submit, your husband submits too.
Yes.
Right? So he's submitting to his wife, you're submitting to your husband. And when nobody is serving, when the serving stops, then so does the overflow.
Because everybody's serving themselves.
Man.
Ooh, and that's a bar.
What's happening right
now. That's a bar. Ooh, I love that I keep that up, man. Shout out to the Thinking Out Loud podcast.
You know? That's crazy.
But pivot. So we was talking about kids and like raising the kids that you like. I remember there was a time where I was like, yo, my kids are not my friends. Right. And as I've grown, as my kids have grown, I'm like, yo, they my friends.
Yeah.
Like, and I want to be able to model to them what a friend looks like.
Yeah.
Right. When it boils down to it, like they my bet, like we kick it.
That's dope.
It's kind of ill.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on your kids being like your friends or being just the kids, staying in the kids' place, especially today, where knowledge, misinformation, not only just knowledge-wise, but emotion-wise, relationship-wise, conversation-wise. There's so much negative discourse that they can be absorbing versus being front of mind to get them the game they need. So I won't ask how old your kids are, but like, what's your thoughts on
for your sure. Friends? Well, I mean, my oldest 14. Teenager. So he's in high school now. So, I mean, I just left the house to where he was in tears with me about a girl he's talking to. He got a little girlfriend at school. And,
bro, don't let these girls drive you crazy. Which
Please.
camera? Don't let these girls drive you crazy. You too young to be worried about these ladies and let them drive you nuts. It's really a distraction.
Yeah.
You probably enjoy it, young fellas. It's for all the young fellas.
Yeah.
You might enjoy the relationship in the community that you get with your friends, but I've been there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I digress.
No, that's real though, because I think it's so hard because he's so girl crazy, and they crazy about him too. So he just be in this, and so right now I'm like, all right, cool. This is what your interest is now. Does it sound familiar? Yeah, it sounds familiar. I'm like, you really my child, okay? So I'm just really trying to, as a boy, as a young man, trying to teach him how to be emotionally intelligent and navigate these conversations with these women in an appropriate and respectful way.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what we talk about. And he was like, I can't believe I just cried over a girl. I'm like, look, that's all right. That is okay. That is okay.
Yes.
And so just making him feel safe enough to express, because I think that was one of the biggest things that held me back was not being my parents' friends.
Yeah.
And not having that relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
When I became an adult, it was so weird to call my dad and just like, now it's just like to chat. What we chatting about?
Word. No,
you my daddy,
up.
but you're not raising me no more, so I don't know what to talk about.
Straight up.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to continue relationship with your child as they get older. Ooh, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real. Ooh, there's so many layers in that.
Man.
So I got obviously a son as well. And emotional intelligence is, as a young man, I don't like to put young man on boys. Like I wait till like 17, 18 before I call you a young man, because men have crazy responsibilities.
Yeah, for sure.
And you don't want this heat yet.
And if they have zero responsibilities, then they don't deserve that.
You're a big boy.
Yeah.
You're a big boy at this point, you feel me? But right, like I think emotional intelligence was one of the dopest things that I learned early as a young man. Like it changed the way that I thought, it changed the way I looked at conversation, it changed the way that I looked at people. It was really like groundbreaking, to say the least, because they always say, your IQ, how much you know,
right?
But that EQ is like, yo, how can you navigate relationship?
I've never heard of EQ before.
EQ,
that's dope.
It's real.
Who taught you?
Work.
Or did you learn? Oh, okay.
My job.
Really?
Right. So it's like maybe 24 the first time I heard it, and was introduced to the book Emotional Intelligence. Took the test, read it all, and it's like really during some of my formative years, because 20s is you still
learning.
If I'm in college, 24, I'm what? I don't know.
Right.
But
yeah.
But it's really some of those formative years.
Yeah.
And so learning emotional intelligence, being a people leader, right? So working directly with multiple individuals to help them reach their goals. It's like, okay, how can I navigate this situation, recognize how I feel about it, but also be in tune and in touch with how this person might be perceiving me in the way I'm communicating.
Yeah.
Right. As well as how am I perceiving them.
That part, that's the part when people speak of emotional intelligence, they leave that part out.
Yeah.
You are responsible for how people perceive you. You are.
Yeah.
You can't just, that's not my problem. Well, to a certain extent, because people are going to perceive you through their own lens and experiences.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's one of life's greatest contradictions. I don't give a fuck what you think about me.
Yeah.
But I have to be mindful of how you think about me, because how you think about me is how you treat me.
Yes.
And if I'm not tuned into perspective and empathy, right, then I will allow how you treat me to affect me.
Yes.
It's a crazy.
It is, but you know what helps put the glue on that wheel, or helps make the wheel turn smoother.
Yeah.
In that process is compassion.
Facts.
Like when I started to become more compassionate with myself, I was able to give others compassion. And with that compassion, it replaced the expectation from them, the hidden expectations I would have, the validation I would need from compassion really frees you from so much of that. And I can understand and see who you are, like you said, not taking offense to that or taking it personal, and just knowing where to place you in my life. That's
you
it.
feel me?
Yeah.
It's a quote in one of my favorite books I've read, it's Art of Mastery. And the quote is about Arthur Schnappner. I said his name wrong, but it's, in a nutshell, like, treat people the way they should be treated.
Yeah.
Right? And like pretty much to be mad at a rock that's in your path is silly
Silly.
because The Rock is only doing what The Rock is doing.
Yeah.
If this person has showed me who they are, I have to respect it,
Yeah.
and I can only treat them in a way that I know to treat them.
Yes.
Like if you showed me that you an asshole, I can't be mad at you for being an asshole.
No.
But I now know how to navigate conversation with you through emotional intelligence because I recognize, well, you're an asshole. Like, let me be mindful of how I communicate. You talk too much, let me be mindful of how much I share because my business going to be out in the streets if I share with you.
And let me tell you something, that I always used to think I was emotional intelligent. It wasn't that though. It was trickery. It wasn't emotional intelligence. It was me. It was self-awareness.
Okay.
It was, that's what it was. But to say that I navigated interactions and conversations in an emotionally intelligent way, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I left a lot of room for error. There was a lot of ways I could have handled conversations better. I didn't think it was responsible. Like I needed to be responsible for how I was perceived.
Yeah.
And that last piece of just navigating, understanding who people are, because I would try to change people and then I would want to chase and I used to be like, oh, these men just want me because they want the idea of me, not the real me. And I would say that, but I was projecting. I liked the idea that I was making of you in my head. I said, I like this one. This would be real good if they fit into here. And then I was only attracting men that wanted to do the same to me.
Ooh. Playing the game.
Playing the game.
Masking.
Yes.
Nobody showing who they really are.
Man. And then that gets exhausting.
It gets tired. I often talk about I can't shrink. It's too exhausting. I can't cut, like I'm who I am no matter where I am.
Right.
And while I don't hold back who I am and with nobody.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get me to a certain level. Yeah. Right? Like crazy quote I would tell people that I work with is like, yo, I try to treat sounds wild out loud. I try to treat every relationship like a marriage. Right? Like it's transparent, it's candid, it's real. Minus all the things that are sacred to my marriage.
Right, of course.
Right.
Right.
But like, yo, why can't I keep it 100% with you?
Right.
Why can't we have conflict and resolve it?
Yeah.
Right. Like too often relationship-wise, people have conflict and they like now we're not friends no more.
Right.
Because I didn't like the way you talked about me. I didn't like the way. I didn't know what you was going through in life, but this situation that happened right here left a bad taste in my mouth without me considering what you might be dealing with in real life.
And that compassion leads you to that question first, where it's like, man, I consider that. All right, cool. I'm gonna give you your space. And we can address it when it comes time. If that addressing it means that I'm honoring myself in that.
100%.
Yeah.
Empathy and accountability.
Absolutely.
Ooh. So, okay, we really diving into this topic. So what put you in a space to say, I'm going to go to therapy?
After I had my son, my baby,
okay,
he'll be a year on Christmas.
Okay.
After I had him, even during the pregnancy, I felt outside of my mind. Like I just felt really emotional, and just felt like for the first time in a long time, I was overwhelmed and could not handle what I was going through. And so I went to therapy after I had him. Probably this March, I started therapy. And beforehand, I would try different therapists, but that therapist compatibility is real.
It's a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is a relationship.
And you're exactly right. It is, because I was like, it ain't giving what I needed to give. So I finally found one that clicked, and I was like, man, I ain't never letting you go.
I love that.
I mean, he has been working. Just yesterday, I was like, you have no idea the amount of lives you're going to change by the way that you change mine in this room. Thank you for the work that you do.
Word.
Oh, yeah.
That's major.
Yeah.
That's major. Ooh. So I think now we got so much language around things, right? Would you say what you were dealing with was like postpartum depression?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now in hindsight, I realize that's what it was. But when I was going through postpartum depression, it didn't feel like what people say postpartum depression should feel like. It felt like, the best way to describe it is I just did not feel at home in myself.
Ooh.
And then not only do I not feel I didn't drop back into my body. I don't feel like this is my home anymore. And now I have this new person to take care of that's dependent on me. So I can't take a minute and get myself together. You know, I can't be like, let me go to Barbados and really take in what just happened to me.
Yeah.
It was a life-changing event. but you got to go straight into the work right afterwards. So I just don't think we give enough. It's a sacred time, and we don't give enough time and patience to that. I think there was this one country where they required, it's like 90 days after the woman gives birth where she is not to move, do anything for herself.
Is that Sweden?
Is it
Sweden?
this chair?
No, Sweden. The
Sweden.
country.
I thought you said, is that squeaking? It is a little bit. It might be.
Because I've seen that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was like a sacred time. And I was like, we need to really implement that in the U.S. Because it is.
It is.
Yeah.
Ooh. I think the women are like the illest because y'all go through so much, right? Like y'all deal with so much. I couldn't imagine carrying a baby, going through that for 9 months. The baby now no longer inside of me.
Right.
Now I'm readjusting to my whole body. I'm adjusting to who I am.
Yeah.
I no longer look like I used to. I no longer feel like I used to. And now this shit ain't about me.
Right. What?
What? It ain't about me.
Before you even leave the hospital. When you get there, it's mama. Oh, come here, mama. I got you. You want your feet up? You good? Like, you want your blanket? As soon as you have that baby, move. Where the baby at? You know, how the baby doing? So it's not that, of course, we want you to care for our baby, but this is why in the work that I do at Kansas Birth Justice Society, we are training up 200 Black and brown doulas because that's the same issues that all birthing persons have, all women have, but it's definitely the case in marginalized communities.
Yeah.
Black women deal with a lot when it comes to the hospital system. So training these doulas allows us to get an advocate in the room and somebody to care about mama.
100%.
Which is what we need.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Ooh, I got 2 questions I want to jump into almost side by side. So the first one I want to ask is, as you were dealing with your postpartum depression before seeking therapy, before seeking like that mental assistance, was there a moment that made you say, all right, enough's enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that there was a moment. It was more so like 1,000 cuts. And it just eventually, it hurt too bad and it became overwhelming. And my relationship with God wasn't what it is today.
Okay.
So I felt very alone. And I would look to my partner for the support that I needed to go to source for. And I was I felt like I need somebody else objectively to tell me that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And that's all I need. And that's how it started, but it's bloomed into something completely. When I first went to my therapist, I told him, he's like, what do you want to work on? And I said, I want to become the most authentic version of myself, share that authenticity with other people, and just become aligned more in who I am and be confident. And over the coming months, he was able to break down to me which one of those come first, because we think that confidence comes first, and it's not. No, it's having the courage to show up authentically, and then observe the consequences that come from that, good or bad, and deciding how to move forward. But the more you show up imperfectly, the more confidence you build. Funny enough.
No, that's real.
Right? So throughout that time with him, I left the radio. Yeah. I went on a trip to DC. I did a lot of things that helped peel this part of me back and found all the ways that I was lying to myself and masking who I wasn't, who I was.
Ooh, that's a bar.
Man.
That's a bar. No, that confidence comes. It takes being uncomfortable.
Yes.
To create comfort.
Yeah.
Not what's the word I'm looking for? I lost it. I'm tripping.
It's okay.
But it takes confidence to create comfort.
Yes.
Not getting too comfortable in that comfort.
Right.
I'm sorry, it takes uncomfortable to create comfort.
Yeah.
But then once you're comfortable, then the confidence comes.
Yes.
That's real. It's like sports. Right? Like, it's like lifting weights. Like, yo, it's uncomfortable as hell, like getting your legs right? Yeah. But then after a little bit, it's like, okay, this is comfortable. I'm not complacent.
Right.
And then that's where the confidence comes. Ooh,
Then
bars.
it gets too easy, and you're like, I need to go up and wait.
Now I need to
Same
take it to the
thing with
next
life.
level.
Yeah.
Factuals. Okay, so say the name again, Kansas
Birth Justice Society.
Birth Justice Society. So you mentioned you wanted to do something that you were passionate about, like being able to have that impact. Like, what led you to this passion?
I used to do this segment called Empower Wichita.
Okay.
So it would run on Sunday mornings, and I would interview nonprofits, and she was one of them, Sapphire Garcia.
Okay.
And we had a great conversation about her nonprofit, and I thought that was the end of our connection.
Yeah.
And then when I left the radio, she messaged me and was like, "Hey, you looking for a job?" And I'm thinking it's gonna be like, I'm like, nah, what? No, I'm gonna chill for a second. Like, what you talking about though? And so she explained to me what it was, and I was like, that low-key sounds a little perfect.
Yeah.
So when the difference from going from corporate to working for nonprofit was there was just no box. There was, she said, this is a role that I want for you, and I know you will. Basically, I know you'll body it because of who you are, and I trust you, and I hire the right people for the right thing, so I don't have to worry about it. And that was just a crazy pivot for me, and I feel so incredibly blessed. I was thanking her for seeing me because I didn't trust it at first. I said, man, thank you for trusting me with this, regardless of my skepticism. Like, you were like, this is for you. She said, just take the position, Alex. Because I was like, well, I don't know. I'm going to think about it. And she said, just do it. This is for you.
Word.
And I did.
And then the rest is...
That's right.
That's fire. That's fire. Now, it's always dope when, like, it's one thing to see yourself. Like, I think that's the ultimate level of, like, I don't want to say enlightenment, empowerment, whatever. It's the ultimate, like, level.
Yeah.
It's being able to see yourself, know who you are. And then it's another dopeness to it when you're at that space where you know who you are, you straight, and other people see that same thing. Like, it's so empowering and affirming.
It really is.
Because it's like, yo, okay, I know I wasn't tripping.
Right.
I'm already good.
Right.
But I'm glad you know it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you didn't, I'd be good.
Yeah, that part. Because that's
I'm
the
glad
gag.
you
It's
get
like
it.
when you looking for it, it don't come. But when you don't need it, it's there.
Come on. And community is important, right? Like, in collaboration, all of those things, right? That help build us to be better collectively.
Yes.
Right? Because it's one thing to be dope by yourself, but then when it's building that gap, all of that good stuff. How dope is it? Let me see. I want to ask you. Post radio, how ill is it to see relationships that you've built like kind of flourish? That you might like you said, it's kind of just an interview. It's just kind of here going by the day, but then it's like, oh shit, I established this thing.
Yeah. It's wild. I'm always amazed at growth. I'm always amazed that 1 + 1 really equal 2. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and it just, I think the moment I started to commit to showing up in my truth, there wasn't a wrong path. Like, I started with truth as long as it aligns with my truth. Because I took my thoughts captive, and I realized that every thought and every action is either a vote towards fear or love. It made it real simple.
You can't have both.
You cannot have both. And so as I started to show up more authentically, of course I want to make everything, because love is the alignment that I feel with myself.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm making a decision based on those things, I can't go wrong.
Facts.
That helped.
Oh, you preaching. Okay. Question I love to ask. 10 years ago, you've done a lot of growth as you touched into your 30s.
Yeah.
10 years ago, what would Alex now tell, I guess, 20-year-old Alex?
I'd be like, baby, you ain't got to have it figured all out. You got time. Honor yourself and slow down.
I love that.
That's what I would have said.
Honor yourself and slow down.
Slow down.
Ooh.
Man.
Because it ain't going nowhere.
At all.
It's actually still going to be there when you come back.
Man. Yes.
Right.
There's nothing new here.
Facts.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's powerful. Okay. So I think we're going to wrap it up. But I like to ask my guests, like, is there anything that you want to get off your chest, or any conversation that you want to have, because we're just thinking out loud.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. I would like to hear you maybe a little bit about what we were talking about and how you show up in your marriage. So I'd like to take this time maybe to flip it, just just to ask you that question. If you were to address other men in the room, young men in the room that are looking to you and saying, Sam, how do I just got married. How do I love my wife?
Ooh. So it's layered. It's layered, but it's simple. And I started by saying nobody's perfect.
Right.
Right? Like, even when people look at me and my marriage, me and my wife, like, shit is dope, but it's not perfect.
For sure.
Right? Because you have two humans who are constantly growing and learning and going through individual stages in life that are committed to bring these two stages of life together to grow together.
That's real.
Right? So it's like, and you may deal with grief.
Right.
You deal with aspirations. You deal with the ebbs and flows of discipline and execution. Right? And so giving yourself grace there. I started with that.
Yeah.
But the thing that I stand firm on is there's a scripture in the Bible that says that man is to love his wife like Christ loved the church. And he died for them niggas. Excuse my language, but like, like, he died for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to like literally die, but to like, you have to die to your lust. You have to die to your pride. You have to die to your ego. You have to die to lack of ambition you might have, right? Like, you have to die daily. And as men, whether you subscribe to like the traditional roles or whatever, like, men, we bred to lead. Like, we're born to lead.
Right.
And you have to be strong in yourself, strong in your conviction, strong in your discernment to be able to lead.
Yeah.
So there's no action that I would necessarily give, but more so a mindset.
Yeah.
And in good times, sit on that mindset. When times ain't going as good as it might be, reaffirm that mindset.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you signed up for this.
Right.
This shit is for life. Some people decide to, like, we gonna get divorced, but we committed.
Right.
Like, to grow together. The engagement period is when we was, how bad do you want it?
Right. That part.
Right. But like, now that we are together as one, shit ain't going nowhere. So what I would tell young brothers, what I would tell even older married folks who may be struggling, like, remember, we are to love our wife like Christ loved the church.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
That's real. That's so good. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you gonna start facilitating these small groups for these young men?
Listen, that's on the menu.
Okay.
So I got quite a few things I'm looking to really get cracking off the 2025.
Okay.
Right. And that is on the menu because I think there's power in perspective.
Yes.
There's power in lived experience. There's power in empathy.
Yes.
Right. And there's power in different ways of seeing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Right. And I know generational wise, now you're going to get me going.
Look.
Right. So generational wise, we always talk about like, how our grandparents had it.
Yeah.
But we, in a lot of cases, grandpa had,
yeah,
maybe another family.
Right.
Right. Mom, grandma, great grandma might not have had the same space to be an independent woman.
Yeah.
So she had to stay down through some bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
had to.
Yeah. Had to.
Yeah.
Right. Then you take all the other nuances and dynamics to it. But I say that to say, when you look at different generations, I might talk to an OG and they're going to see the whole thing way different than I might see it. And I'm going to see it way different than young brothers under me might see it. Right. And so marrying those thoughts together, those different ideas, that dialogue, I think is important.
And then having that. Yes, I'm gonna get in the kitchen with you.
Let's cook.
For real.
Let's cook.
Like I've been having some things on my mind too, just because dialogue is very important. And in those different perspectives, people can find themselves.
That part.
Yeah.
I think the power, one of the reasons I started this show is the power of, there's many different reasons. Different people have probably heard different reasons for why I started this show, just depending on how I was feeling that day, but it all ties into it, right?
For sure.
But I love the contradiction of human behavior.
Yeah.
I love dissonance.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, and then I love, sounds crazy, I don't love sin, but I love the idea that you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
When it's like, if you truly are subscribed to a Christian belief, then he died for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not perfect.
Right.
Right? Because we gonna fall short.
Right.
And so it's like, yo, I love the idea of people feeling people have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And the people that feeling people have to be perfect aren't perfect themselves.
That's dissonance. Yeah.
You feel me? Right. I love the idea, like we mentioned earlier, right? Like, yo, you're responsible for how people perceive you.
Yeah.
But you can also not give a fuck how they perceive you.
Yeah.
And being ready to navigate what that looks like when you don't give a fuck.
Because everything has consequences.
Everything has consequences.
If you don't want to take responsibility on the front end, then you're going to have to deal with the consequences of that result.
You feel me?
But just as long as you eat that, you good. You ain't going to hear from me about it.
You're going to be straight. You feel me?
Just eat that.
But you have to be ready for it.
That's right.
So I love those I love human behavior.
Yeah.
I might be more of a philosopher than I am anything else.
Yeah, I feel that.
Because I just love the thought part of it all.
Yes.
The actions is on you.
Yeah. For me, but exactly. I feel like I could sit here and I can, what is it, philosophize?
Yeah, philosophize.
I sit here and we get to have conversations that go every which way but it's just I would say that I'm very curious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious, and I love, and one of the reasons why I wanted to join you on your podcast is because everybody can have a podcast, but not everybody's asking the right questions. Mm. And you ask very good questions.
Word, I received that.
That helps. That helps with the quality of conversation.
Word,
for sure.
That's the aim, right? It's to elevate conversation, because community seems to get more and more dumbed down, more and more like okay with whack shit.
Yes.
Okay with everybody else's lives,
yeah,
with no accountability.
Yeah. Versus
so one of the things I like on this show, I don't talk too much about the work people do or the work they got coming out, quote unquote, right? Like if an artist comes on here, we're not going to talk about your show coming up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you.
Right.
Let's dive into that, because there's somebody who don't give a shit about your work.
Right.
But they're going to see themselves in you in some way, shape, or form. And then we grow from that. One more thing I'll add, and I'll shut up. But I think like it's ill, like when I look at the internet, and I think that I recognize, especially Twitter. Twitter's my favorite space, because there's so many different everything, right?
Yeah.
And while the internet is a great reflection of the world, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
But it's not always a reflection of your world.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So people jump on the net and they like, women ain't shit, men ain't shit. It's like, that might be part of the world, but the men in your life is kind of cool.
Right.
The women in your life is kind of cool. Right? Like, it's that discernment to recognize this ain't for me, but I can engage in it.
Yeah, and I think that's why breaks from it are essential at times, to remember who you are and realize that this is a tool.
Come on.
Because I think people do get their echo chambers confused with their identity. And that ain't real.
That ain't real.
No.
That ain't real.
It's an illusion. Go touch some grass.
Go touch some grass. That's how we're going to end it. Go touch some grass.
Go touch some grass.
Listen. Anything else you want to leave the people with?
Thank you so much for having me.
100%.
Thank you for being here. If you made it to this part of the video, then you a real one.
Factuals.
And thanks for caring.
Yes, all of that. Listen, this has been Thinking Out Loud with Samuel David, my special guest, Miss Alex. And we out.
Look both ways when you cross that street. Dot your I's and cross your T's. Measure twice, but cut once. Love life, live it up, bruh. Dream is good, do the work too. There ain't nothing you can't work through, and there ain't nothing I can't handle. There ain't nothing I can't handle. I look to the sky, and I thank God that I'm alive. I look to my wife, and I thank God she by my side. I've been through a lot, but I survived. It weighs on my heart from time to time, but there ain't nothing I can't handle.